What's up, everybody? Welcome to CJJC 26 Beach Games, pre-show presented to you by the Ugly Dog Sports Cafe. I'm Jordan Kurtz. You can give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Joined here alongside Luis Rodriguez. How you doing, my man?
Doing good, man. Glad to be back from vacation. Get right back to work.
I mean, it's about time. He's working banker's hours over here. You know, we got to get this guy to do something, guys. So first and foremost, where can people follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram at LuJitsu. Yeah, follow me and hit me up for matches. Also, just to be in tune of what we got going on for CJJC coming up in the next couple months. Yeah, we'll keep you updated.
Bookmark the page, jujitsuclub.co. Fill out those applications for future events, whether that be for grapple game shows or for our full-on pro cards. Like I say, make sure that you keep that bookmarked, as well as give us a follow along on Instagram at the CJJC Cage. Also, smash that subscribe and the bell notification on YouTube. That way you don't miss a video drop every time that they come through. Just to recap where we're at with things, we had our Grapple Games Attack Bands show that happened just a couple of weeks ago. That was a smashing success on a Friday night here in Colorado. There's always so many things that people can go out there and do and fill their time with, but we had a full room there at the gym with the event going on, plus a lot of people tuning in on the stream. It was a very fun and competitive atmosphere. It was a different wrinkle within the competitive grappling element, and man, I just want to say, for all of you who tuned in and who were there in support in person or who competed on the card, thank you guys, because that was awesome.
Honestly, yeah, I'd have to second that. These things that we're doing, they're definitely very experimental in the grappling games. The first one we did, card jiu-jitsu. This next one, attack bands. Our job is to definitely entertain everybody, try to bring something new to the table each time. Of course, there's going to be a lot of negative attitudes that come with it, but we're very fortunate to have such a thriving jiu-jitsu community and such a supportive CJJC community, to not only have people to be gamers and come and just try whatever it is that we're putting on, but also just having spectators to just come and bring the vibe and not worry about what the hell is this that we're watching. They're just ready to see a show, so we're really, really fortunate for that. Thank you, guys.
Well, and that's something that is important to hit on, is anytime that there's something that's new within the marketplace, there's always going to be certain detractors that exist, right? But that's how it was with the UFC when it first came along. That's how the explosion of jiu-jitsu itself on the scene post-UFC kind of became. That's how a lot of these other, like it or not, power slap is a very profitable endeavor. That's something that not an audience that is absolutely there for that. And it's the same thing with some of these little variations of different combat sports out there, whether it be something that we've done with card jitsu, to attack bands, to some of the coffin grappling matches out there. There's tire boxing, there is barrel wrestling. There's so many different little elements that just take the core of the martial art and the combat sports competition, but adding just a different little element and variable of how do you accomplish this goal. And yeah, for some, they may think that it's a little bit gimmicky or quirky or weird, but I think that it's also something that's fun for the competitors to go out there, and they do the heavy rounds and the grind of training for the big competitions so much on a regular basis already as it is, right? But these events give them something that is maybe just a little bit more fun to throw in the mix, and they're still competing, they're still dealing with the CNS aspect of competition, which I think is undervalued for so many. You're still having to go through the process of preparing for an event, selling the event, dealing with fans, spectators, tickets, all of that, making the walk in front of a crowd, being on a stream, so on and so forth. And this may just be an element that it doesn't have as much wear and tear, or you're not taking as much damage as, say, you go into a full tournament weekend for grappling, or for some of our athletes who are multifaceted who also compete in Muay Thai or MMA. You're not taking the full-on damage of a fight, but you're still going out there and competing and dealing with all of the CNS aspect of it, as well as having some fun competing and going and trying to win something.
I agree, and I feel like too, you have a separation between people who compete no-gi, people who compete in gi, people who compete in specific kinds of rule sets, or I only do this kind of organization because I like this rule set, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that being able to open up these games, not only like you said, opening up, an opportunity for more entertaining and fun matches, but I think it also, just like card jiu-jitsu, it's a facet of jiu-jitsu, or jiu-jitsu is a facet of that, I should say. So it's going to be adjusted a little bit. It's like a different form of rule set. We're throwing something new into the mix, so it kind of separates the real competitors from people who are case to be, which I kind of like that because, like I said, it helps us identify who our real gamers are. The people who are not only doing our pro shows, they're also jumping onto these jiu-jitsu events, these smaller jiu-jitsu events, not knowing what's to come out of them. Whether or not the record is already in good standing, and then they lose a couple grappling games matches. We have people who don't care about that, which is really cool for me to see. So yeah, man, it's been awesome working these grappling games events just as much as the pro shows, honestly.
Absolutely. And throughout the course of this card, whether it be on the prelims all the way up through the main card, we have a lot of veterans of the CJJC cage, whether it be directly on these pro shows or graduates and alumni, if you will, from these Grapple Games cards, which serve as kind of a great little breeding ground or an audition platform, if you will, for some of these early combatants and these early athletes to be able to just kind of be a proving ground to show, A, can you deal with the element of competition, but can you also handle the business side of things? But without further ado, let's run down this main card and let's talk a few of these matchups here, starting off in the main event. This is one that, to me, I feel like when you have the opportunity on any local card or any local event to have someone who has those coveted 3 letters from the combat sports community in it, that's something that your eyes should be immediately attracted to. And I know that there might be some people out there who call me biased or say that I'm close to the forest on this one. Yes, there is obviously the connection of Josh Friend being my former co-host with the MMA Plug, longtime teammate, good friend, so on and so forth. But to give recognition to who Josh is a veteran of the UFC, spent many fights in the UFC in the middleweight ranks. He's competing here for us this weekend for Novamente, and he's taken on Riley Alona at a Grapple House. This is a styles make matchups sort of situation. Josh is obviously somebody who has a considerable amount of experience in the cage, working off of the wall, wrestling, coming from Pennsylvania, having that PA wrestling background where, to call it for what it is, even if you're a mid-tier wrestler coming out of Pennsylvania, you're still vastly superior than a large majority of the country, just by the nature of the competition that you came up competing in. I think that this is a matchup that gives Josh another opportunity to have a target out there to continue to work toward getting back in the cage and making his return as a full-on fighter. That's obviously his bread and butter as a prize fighter, but this is something that we get to see.
I agree. Being able to not only witness Josh in the cage, he's a vet, but more so just great to work with, man. He's been really good to work with, just as far as the business side of things, as well as matchups, people pulling out, coming in. Josh knows that he's the big name there to worry about, but he's not really shy about who it is that we put in front of him, which is awesome. I will say Riley Alona, the guy is definitely a stud. He's coming off with some big pro wins. He's got a lot of momentum coming behind him. So, I think this is a good test for Josh, but equally for Riley. With all this momentum, man, we're going to see if that's really going to be the case. Is he the shooting star that he's looking to be, or, is he going to be stopped by the experience in Josh? I'm really excited to see how that plays out. Yeah, man, that should be a good one.
Yeah, and this is Riley's first time making his trip to the CJJC cage. Josh has made a trip. He is a veteran when he took on Matthew Vargo, who is also on this main card. Going to speak about him here momentarily. But when we start talking about some of these guys who are specialists versus someone who is diversified in their training, sometimes there does also present some of those advantages when you're talking about the graduations of levels of caliber of competition. But at the same time, that grit as a fighter, I think also kind of helps with these guys who are coming from an MMA realm. One way or the other, this is a phenomenal matchup in the main event that I think that all the fans who are going to be tuning in on the stream on YouTube or that are there in attendance at the Stampede, great matchup for you to be able to sink your teeth into between two very highly experienced veterans. In the co-main event, you have also another matchup of a long-time, very decorated jiu-jitsu specialist who has taken on somebody who has cut their teeth in the MMA realm, who does have solid jiu-jitsu, but is very largely based in the MMA world. And I'm excited to see this matchup in the co-main event between Alex Apodaca, representing high-altitude martial arts, taking on Katie Tabula of Raza BJJ. This matchup, like I say, I think it's a very distinct styles clash. I am intrigued to see how Apodaca takes this matchup without having the striking element, especially because in MMA, part of what makes her so good and so devastating is she fights like an absolute psycho. She hits so hard for a woman, and that's very definitely a difference maker when you're talking about adding the strikes in, which can, in a sense, delineate some of the grappling. She's fought some very grappling heavy specialists that are on the MMA scene here in the Denver area and was able to neutralize that because she hits so hard and puts that fear into her opponents. That doesn't exist when we're talking about just the jiu-jitsu world. She has somebody who is coming from a very decorated camp, who has a corner who is very highly regarded and highly touted. This is a matchup where I think we get to see Alexis try to prove something, and on the flip side, you might go out there and see an all-business approach from Katie that, again, very well put together.
Yeah, I think that, I love these matchups when you put, style against style, jiu-jitsu versus MMA, because like it or not, when you put two jiu-jitsu people against each other, odds are they're probably facing the same kind of nerves, dealing with the same kind of, what strategy do I play, et cetera, et cetera. But when you put in an MMA person who's been in the fight game, who's gone into wars against people, there's a different mindset that comes with it, and they either are able to separate those real legit jiu-jitsu practitioners from the people that are I don't want to say hobbyists, but maybe more curriculum based, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, being able to see these MMA people, which may lack in the jiu-jitsu aspect of it, but you're surrounded by a cage, so there's some familiarity there. It kind of evens out the match. We kind of see who's really the specialist in their respected martial art, whether it be MMA, whether it be jiu-jitsu. Like you mentioned, Alex definitely has a jiu-jitsu background. Will it be enough to be able to deal with Katie's jiu-jitsu background, which is a little bit more high level in my opinion, coming from the two different camps that she's working under. But again, exciting match to see to me because anything can happen when you have MMA, when you have jiu-jitsu, when you're putting it in a cage, and especially when you have 2 rounds on the line. So I'm excited for that one as well.
In the feature bout, we have Kyle Kirk of Says MMA taking on Giovanni Valles out of New Era Jiu-Jitsu. Now, these are both of a couple of guys who have experience also in our CJJC cage. 2 guys who are veterans of the scene, who have competed across the board on multiple different shows and platforms, who come from camps, who are very well put together, who always have their athletes prepared for competition. So, for 2 very battle-tested and ready for competition athletes, styles make these matchups. From the Sesnalevich side of things, that camp is technical with their jiu-jitsu and a lot of side of things. Mike Sesnalevich, a veteran of the UFC, the IFL, the very first guy in UFC history and in heavyweight history to land a heel hook way back in the day. Someone who, again, a plethora of experience, a black belt himself, who is leading his fighter into this charge. But on the flip side, Matt Sierra, there is nobody that he puts out there who is not supremely technical and ready for competition in every single turn of the way.
I agree. I can't stress enough how awesome it is to be able to work with them all the time. They always have competitors for us, always people who are game, gi, no gi. But yeah, as you mentioned, Giovanni definitely has a tough test in front of him. I like this match specifically because it's a gi. Typically, we've seen Giovanni in a lot of no-gi matches. He's specifically training for some gi stuff coming up. So, it just made sense for him to train and compete in the gi, so I like this match for him. I like to be able to see him in a different aspect of the sport, just doing more gi stuff and kind of a fresh purple belt. He's definitely going to take it for a spin on Saturday, and yeah, we'll see, man. Last time I think he finished with a straight ankle, very fast, and I think you called it to a T, Jordan. So I'm interested to see if that game is going to be the same game plan, kind of mixing it up between the wrestling and the leg locks, or if we're going to see a way more well-versed between the two just because we're throwing the gi in there. So another one very, very excited for.
Definitely. And the next matchup that we're going to talk about is one that I had circled on the main card, is one that I think that really stood out to me, and it's because we have two gamers who maybe haven't been on the thrill side, if you will. Every time we talk about competition, especially in combat sports, there's the thrill side and then there's the agony side. Take your guess which one is which. But in this situation, you have a matchup between Matt Wargo of Academy of Grind, who's taken on Donald Rosenau of the Subhounds. These two guys I can't speak volumes enough of as competitors who have taken on very stiff tests in their last couple of trips out to the CJJC cage in UFC veterans of Cody Brundage, Basil Hafez, and Josh Fremd. Collectively, between the two of those guys, those have been their last three opponents in the CJJC cage. Each of them are looking to get their hand raised after going through there and just facing some learning opportunities between them. That all being said, I think that this is an opportunity for each of them to go out there, put on for their respective student bases and academies. The game that Donald employs is very slick and very technical when he's going to attack the legs. I mean, it's a signature of the Subhounds, the back takes and the leg breaks. Those guys have had a pretty good run lately so far, whether it be on the MMA side of things or competing in the grappling world. Sometimes momentum is a big deal, and not to take anything away from Wargo by any means, but I think that Donald Rose now is going to be somebody who's going to come out there with his head on fire. He's immediately going to go for the legs. I don't know. I can't speak with any sort of prior knowledge or insight to say that, I know that this is what his game plan is, but I imagine that he's going out there with a sense of urgency and is going to have a game plan to immediately go for the attack, not waste any time, and try to get his hand raised.
I'm interested in this one to see how it plays out, just because, like you had mentioned before, both of these guys, they have faced very, very tough competitors prior. Both of them kind of, not necessarily on a losing streak, so to speak, but both of them have lost their last couple matches. I'm very interested to see the game plan of both guys. Like you mentioned, I do think that Don will end up coming out a little bit more aggressive. My question is Wargo going to come out as aggressive? Is Wargo going to be a little bit more tentative and aware in his approach in dealing with Don, who's a little tricky with the leg games and getting under you? So I'm excited to see that play out. But I think more so just being able to work with these guys once again, like you mentioned. They've worked with us before. They're great to work with. They accept any and every opponent, regardless of the name, regardless of the rank. We threw Donald in there against Basil, who was a black belt, and it was just like, regardless of how that match went, to be so game to just be a company man, jump in the main event, and, give him the best run for his money. I can't stress enough how much we appreciate those guys, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing. I don't want to see a loser here, but I am looking forward to seeing the match overall.
One thing I'm also looking forward to, and it's something that we get to have a little bit of the creativity added in the mix that we don't get, say, in the UFC or for some of the bigger promotions where it is a compliance-based kit. I'm interested in seeing the rash guard for Donald Rose now, because and great parody-based ones like the leg lock specialist one that looked like the Glock logo.
Yeah.
And just a couple of those sort of ones. I mean, we get to see a lot of cool designs that are in the jiu-jitsu world with rash guards and with just overall kits and whatnot.
Shout out BJJ Wholesale.
And yeah, I think that he's used that opportunity to showcase something in that sense it's to me, I find those things entertaining as someone who has followed the product, obviously being a part of it, but someone who back in the day when we used to see all these different fight kits you got to see some of that cool individual flair, or what colors did some people choose, or the brands and the way that the sponsors and all that were put together on the kit. We allow the opportunity for our athletes to be able to express that side of themselves, and I love being able to see that.
I do like that. And if you don't have a rash guard and you can't afford a rash guard, whatever the case is, you just be like Micah Haas and throw on a fake mustache and dress like Hollywood Hulk Hogan and, have a good time of it. But yeah, I'm excited about it too, just to see the flavor in the matches for sure.
And then open up the card, we have the matchup who you had circled, and I agree. I think that this one is a thriller. It's a couple of guys who have a tremendous amount of experience for us as well, who are very young within their competitive career, but are extremely game and have certainly earned a spot on this main card based off of A, their activity, and B, the effort that they give every single time that they compete, no matter what the rule set is.
Yeah, man, again, every time Robert Taylor's on the card, I can't say enough good things about him, man. He's such a good kid. Had a lot of ups and downs with his competitive career, being young, being a little inexperienced, being heavier in weight and out of shape. He's over several matches. He's come down in weight, gotten in better shape, gotten more focused. This is actually the lowest weight that he's competed at, which I'm like super proud of him for. I'm really excited for it. But again, another one, he's got a tough matchup in front of him in Bendy. Anthony Bendy. Both of these guys have had losses. They've had wins. They've experienced both sides of that, thrill and agony that you mentioned earlier. Both of them coming off of wins. Robert coming off of a win at CJJC 25, and then Bendy just taking the money home from our Grappling Games 2. So these guys also have a lot of momentum. Blue belts looking to prove something. I will say, for all the effort and everything that Robert has shown us in recent years, Bendy is tough. I've rolled with that kid on numerous occasions at the home gym, and I gotta say, he's one of the few people who gives me the most problems. And it's just surprising, his body style, his belt level, kind of makes me frustrated that I'm not messing him up as much as I think I should be. But I do think that that's going to be an awesome match for those two. I'm really looking forward to that one specifically.
Don't be surprised if in that matchup you see some entanglements where you kind of almost cringe or you feel your gut drop, because each of these dudes have rubber bones. They're almost multi-jointed. You'll see, if you go back and you review the Grapple Games footage with Anthony Bendy taking on Seth Tumbleson, the way that his arm cranked and turned over, that happened right in front of me as I was calling it. And like most people, if that happened to me, if my arm was turned in that direction, it's exploded. It's gone. I'm done for a year, surgically repaired. Anthony Bendy, though, no problem. Yeah, we're here just a couple weeks later. We're back in the mix and we're competing. That is something that, again, and on the flip side, Robert Taylor, some of the entanglements that we've seen his
last match,
oh
my
God,
he was in, I think, 2 sub attempts, like back to back, deep sub attempts. I really was like biting my fingers on that one. I thought that was over for him. I counted him out. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, Robert. But he came back in the second round and ends up pulling off a beautiful submission. He weathered the storm. I would argue that it's because I used to beat him up so bad, so he's used to weathering the storm.
Beat some grit into it.
Yeah, that's right. But these guys are definitely, they're going all for it, and they're kind of willing to put their body on the line to do it too. So it's very, very exciting, especially coming out of some blue belts.
Absolutely, and that wraps up our chat as far as the main card right there, folks. We're going to talk about the prelims and a couple of fights that we have our eyes on. Stick around after the break.
Hospital, cemetery. All right. And action. Oh, my bad.
Welcome back to CJJC Beach Games pre-show, presented to you by Ugly Dog Sports Cafe. I'm Jordan Kurtz, joined here alongside Luis Rodriguez. We're going to go through our key matchups to keep an eye on for the undercard at Beach Games here. Luis, who do you have?
For the undercard, I'm definitely extremely excited to see Trevor Thompson and Garrett Munson go at it. Both of them are returning, both coming off of losses, but in my opinion, these are the kind of guys that are extremely hungry after a loss. They are both brawlers, I guess you would say, in the jiu-jitsu cage, but, they are going to definitely be going at it, going head-to-head. It's going to be intense. Yeah, man, I don't expect anything less. I'm ashamed, or it's unfortunate that it's not 2 rounds, because I want to see 2 rounds of them just going at it, man. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Munson is like a raging bull every single time that he's in there, and just fun to watch. The guy competes like his head is on fire. A matchup for me that I have my eyes on the undercard, I have to give a shout-out to Seth Tumbleson, who's going to be taking on Cameron Santos. Cameron Santos is coming out of the Catalyst crew. Everybody that Professor Trevor Paul Hamas puts out there from Catalyst is very game, and they are skilled jiu-jitsu practitioners. They are prepared for the element of the wall in most cases, and they are very diverse within their attacks, and they're defensively sound. On the flip side, you have someone in Seth Tumbleson, who's a veteran of our attack band's grapple game that just happened a few weeks ago. He trains out of Evergreen Jiu-Jitsu and Factory X under the tutelage of Professor Scott Miller. He is a wrestle heavy jiu-jitsu. He's young, he's creative, and Seth has this look about him that he's very unassuming, right? Because he's still so young as far as his features go. He's 19 years old, but he could very easily pass off as still just barely coming out of middle school, just by appearances, which isn't a bad thing, because that means that he's going to continue to grow, and his final development is going to be a little bit later on in life, being the late bloomer. But I think that also kind of throws some people off a little bit on the competitive side of things, because you don't expect that, oh no, he can wrestle like a man.
Yeah, he definitely, like you said, an unassuming look to him for sure. I would actually also say that with Cameron. I haven't had a chance to roll with Seth. I only have heard very, very good things about his jiu-jitsu, and I've been able to watch it on our last Grappling Games card. Cameron, I have gotten a chance to roll with, and just like anybody from Catalyst, they are game. Cameron is very, very scrappy. As you mentioned, so is Seth. So another really good scrap I'm looking forward to, especially from a couple of young kids who, we know there's not going to be nothing short of, all the cardio in the world for this match.
Certainly, and just one more person that I want to throw a shout out to before we get to the itinerary for the weekend. I want to give a shout out to Owen Body Bar. Owen Body Bar is constantly competing, whether it is here with us or on other platforms, and just because he is such a gamer, and as we talked about earlier, he's one of those guys who's a great company man, puts on for the product, he is in the mix, his pops is there with him at the shows, he goes for it every single time that he competes, whether he is on the winning side or not. You get a known commodity and what he's going out there to bring. That kid wants to compete, and he brings that spirit of creative competition every single time that he's out there, whether he's throwing up buggy chokes or doing some other unorthodox things to try to find his entry. I love the fact that, this is just my outside looking in interpretation. There's guys that he goes up against that may have superior athletic skill sets and just sort of the raw strength, explosion, whatever. But he uses his mind, his creativity, the actual human chess element of jiu-jitsu, if you will, to figure out some creative entries to get to his attacks, where maybe some other guys are able to use that size, strength, power, explosivity, whatever, to their advantage. He figures out other ways, and I love someone who owns their game in the process.
I agree, man. Owen, now that I think about it, in our last 4 events, we did a pro show, then we did 2 grappling games, just as well as this one, CJJC 25, and this one, CJJC 26. Owen has competed on all of those cards. Actually, at one point, he was hesitant only because he was trying to give us a chance to let other people give it a shot. But he, like you mentioned, he's a freaking gamer. Didn't matter the weight, didn't matter the opponent, didn't matter the belt. Owen is just down to come show up, put on a show, and really more than anything, just test himself. And that's just been so awesome to be able to watch and also to work with. So thank you very much, Owen. We're very excited to have you on the card again.
That wraps up our chat as far as the card itself, but we do want to give you some information as far as the weekend goes and go through the itinerary for the weekend. Lewis, what do we have?
Friday, August 1st, weigh-ins. Doors will open, scale will open at 11 a.m., so make sure that you're there promptly. The sooner that we get these check-ins done, the sooner you can get on the scale, we get the face-offs and get out of here. Face-offs will be at 11:45. This is going to be live on YouTube. If you're watching it live, it'll be on YouTube. If you're watching it online, it'll be on YouTube. If you're watching it live, that'll be at the Ugly Dog Cafe. Again, 11 a.m. doors open. Face-off start 11:45. Fast forward to the next day, game day. We have CJJC 26 Sweet Summer Grappling, August 2nd. That's going to be noon that the doors open, and the show will start at 12:30. Again, live on YouTube. Be there.
There you have it right there. As far as the rundown for the weekend events and itinerary, make sure that you have that marked on your calendar so you do not miss any of the action throughout the weekend. From my broadcast partner, Luis Rodriguez, I'm Jordan Kurtz. We look forward to seeing you at CJJC 26.